Well, most people understand that in order to make progress, you have to do things which aren't necessarily going to make you the most popular boy on the block. And that's what we did. In that case, we had a decision to make, and we had to make a decision.
Is that something you learned all by yourself, or was it instilled in you by your father or your grandparents or anyone?
I think maybe it's something that was instilled, and maybe it's something that you've learned through a little bit of trial and error over the years. I think this country maybe is a good example. I just don't feel the country is going forward in the proper direction. We could have made quick decisions, and we would have been a lot better off than the way we've been sitting around over the last couple of years and just watching everybody else do everything, and we just sit back and take everybody's abuse. It's a very sad situation that somebody isn't there making the decisions and pushing the right and proper, I don't want to use the word buttons, frankly, but pushing the right levers so that we can go out and do things as we're supposed to be doing them.
You are a mover, you are a doer. If you could make America perfect, how would you do it?
Well, I think that America is a country that has tremendous, tremendous potential. I think that much like the mind, I think that America is using very, very little of its potential. I feel that this country with the proper leadership can go on to become what it once was. And I hope, and certainly hope, that it does go on to be what it should be.
What should it be?
Well, it should really be a country that gets the respect of other countries.
Is respect the most important thing in your opinion?
Well, respect can lead to other things. When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create the right attitudes. The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance. I don't think anybody would have been angry with us, and we had every right to do it at the time. I think we've lost the opportunity.
Donald, would you have wanted to be one of those men to have gone to Iran, and taken those fellows out?
No, I wouldn't have wanted to be, but I would have done it.
Would you?
Absolutely. If I were the age, if I were in the military.
There were a lot of those fellas who went for that aborted coup who were 34 years old and older. They were your age.
That's right.
If you were called upon, would you? I know it's easy to say, yes, of course I would go. But if the phone rang right now and someone from the Selective Service had said, Donald, we're taking every young man 34 years of age, we're sending him to war, would you go to war?
No, I don't see a war. You see, the war this is not a Vietnam situation, fortunately. The war, in fact, with Iraq.
There is a war waging there right now.
Oh, yes, there is a war, and it's a war where nobody has any tanks, has any guns. It's a war where everyone's standing around. That would have been the easiest victory we would have ever won, in my opinion.
When I look at television, I see men being shot up, legs being blown off.
You're talking about two non-existent armies. I mean, Iran has an army composed of American equipment without parts and without anything else, and Iraq has a very weak army, and they're just really fighting each other. I mean, it's almost hand-to-hand combat. If you see now, they've run out. It's a sad situation, Rona, but it's a situation which ultimately is going to get much worse. That little sparkle of war, that little sparkle is going to lead, in my opinion, to a much, much greater conflict, and I think that's very unfortunate. And I think a lot of it has to do with this country and the fact that this country is not more involved in terms of setting policy in that area.
Do you think perhaps that the oil industry is responsible for this, as the late Shah once implied?
Well, I wouldn't want to criticize the oil industry because I wouldn't know enough about it, but I can tell you that I think this country is responsible for that war by its own weaknesses. I don't think you'd have this war if they, again using the other word, if we were respected, properly respected as a country and as a people and as a nation. I don't think that you would have the war going on right now between Iran and Iraq. I don't think that Iran would have our hostages for 10 minutes. If they respected this country, I don't believe they would have our hostages for 10 minutes.